see black jewelry. I know I stand out, I don't need a trifling. I jack the limelight if you, I'm thinking head quick. I tell them catch me if you can, hope some gingerbread. Oh, I never ride solo. It's me and my chick looking like slow-mo.
Hey, this is Vince Bugs. I'm down here in Tampa waiting on the hurricane. And Gail Kasper, keynote speaker, author, and model, and the list goes on, and TV host. So, Gail, how are you doing?
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thank you
hey.
for reading my book. I was wondering who the one person was. It's you.
No, it's a great book because, you know, we had touched on some of the subjects that you talked about, and then you updated it and you came out with like some new content. You shaped it up, and I really liked it. You know, there's like, we could get to a whole bunch of points that you made in the book, and I'll let you touch on some of those acronyms that you put in that book, that, you know, in your book of Unstoppable. So before we get started, let the audience know who you are.
I'm Gail Kasper, a motivational speaker, sales trainer, television host, and author. I've got 2 books out there. One of them is Unstoppable, which we're going to talk about. I'm super excited about that. And also Sell Like a Cockatoo, which is a new way of selling in today's rapidly changing world.
All right. So, hey, guys, if you're looking for Gail, just check it out. She has a whole bunch of links. You can go check her Instagram, everything. Gail's got it going on. You need to hire her as a consultant. Just reach out to her. She definitely will reach out back to you. Check her out on Instagram at Gail Kasper. And I am telling you, she is worth the time to talk to get your life in order. All right. With that being said, we're going to touch about Unstoppable, and which is a really great book. And it touches on your self-awareness. So let me ask you this real quick, is that you really touched your personal experiences in life and you applied it to some different methodologies. So how did you get there?
Yeah, well, I had a strong father that kind of made me stay in line in life. And I honestly believe that it was my dad that stimulated this whole concept of systematic attitude development technique, because you were not allowed to sit and dwell in your hard times or be stuck. You had to take action. And then we grow up, we go out on our own, we have to pay our own bills, and you are forced to utilize that discipline to stay in action and to get a job done. And when you're on your own, and Vince, you know this better than anybody, you can't afford to be stuck. You got to keep that motion going. You've got to stay active. So this was applied to my life through some of my hardest times, really, just to say, you know what? I got hit in the face. I got knocked down. I'm pursuing clients. It's not working, but I got to keep going. Got to keep trying to get in the doors, and I got to keep earning my living.
Yeah, you know, a great point, because for some reason people have this misconception that people that are aesthetically pleasing don't have issues. And it just blows my mind that the amount of people that don't realize that everybody struggles in life when they're going through what I call the crucible of life, of trying to get your life together. And so, like, some of the crucibles you went to, is you moved out. You're from Pittsburgh, right? Or from?
I'm from Philadelphia. Close.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
100 miles.
Oh, my bad.
Close.
Philadelphia. And then you moved out to LA. So what was your connection from living in Philly to moving out to LA?
And I didn't have one. I was 19 years old. I had $2,000 in my pocket. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't know anybody. I had no car. And if anybody knows, being out in LA without a car, relying on buses is not the easiest thing in the world.
RTD.
So, yeah, I had to figure it out quick. My father had set me up with 2 different people for 2 days each. So I had 4 days out in the Los Angeles area to get it together, figure out where I was going to live and what my next steps were. So within those 4 days, I found this little tiny, what looked like a dorm room. That's how big it was. It was so tiny. And it had like the bed in there with a little side kitchenette and a bathroom, that was the extent of it. But it was in a good area. It was in Burbank. So at least I was guided to a good location. And then within 2 weeks, I started working at an appliance store. So, getting my foot wet in the sales process. And then I lasted there for a couple weeks, because I got hired as a receptionist in a company that I had stayed with for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a turning point in my life, because I really, in today's day and age, want to emphasize that we can all go to a job and start on time and hit the time clock. But meaning
Okay.
I just wanted to learn new jobs. I wanted to do something more. And then even when I moved into other companies and I would started on the front line and I was a project coordinator, they developed a department around me because I was taking on so much work that wasn't mine, that I then needed people to work under me to support it. So nothing that in my life has been, you go in, you work 9 to 5, and then you get promoted. It's all been work overtime to get more, to achieve more, to get to that next level.
Okay, but you hit a key point is you said you work for free. So in today's society, and this is great for a great segue before I really get deep into the book, is that young people today, and there's things on Instagram, on podcasts, on TikTok, people are struggling with that concept that they're not being paid their value, or they don't see the value in learning a skill set without getting the currency first, which I believe I grew up the same way. The more harder I worked, the better my opportunities came. For some reason, in the 21st century, that seems to be a struggle for many people. Why is that?
I'm frustrated by it. I can't answer that question. Sometimes I say it's generational.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that, if you've raised your child where they are getting everything and it's easy for them. But to me, it comes back to the mindset of, oh, I don't want to give it too much. I'm not going to clock in 5 minutes ahead of time. Are you kidding me? Like, you don't want to just show up at least 5 minutes ahead of time, get yourself organized. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go in right at 11 o'clock and punch that clock. I can't. What kind of message are we setting for our kids when we do that?
Right.
It's not just the grown-ups. They've got kids, and the kids are watching them be like, well, I'm not leaving till 5 to 11 to go down the street for the 11 o'clock job to punch in exactly at 11 o'clock. So,
right. And that's the standard they're setting. And I think leads back into the fire part of being unstoppable, which means is if you look at yourself, if you don't have an inner fire or some way to understand that you've got to, step out of your comfort zone to make things happen in your life. You touched on a key point on talking about survival mode. And that's what you moved out there as 19 years old. And I went through the same thing. I was living in California in a garage. So definitely know what you're talking about. I was in a garage living, paying, I think $150 a month, for rent. And that was me scraping that together, working at Pasadena Mall. I was in survival mode, So when you touch on survival mode and achieving getting that fire and then survival mode, what do you mean by that in the book?
Yeah, survivor mode is you're really just getting by. You don't even know that there's more out there for you. You have no idea. And I can relate to that because when I was in California and I told you I was working for a company and I was putting my heart into it, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, multiple tasks, multiple jobs. But I was working for someone else's dream. And I never felt fulfilled in that. And I never really grew my own talents and strengths and didn't even know what they were. I mean, I was 25 years old and I remember being so lost and so sad that I was just like sitting in the bathroom contemplating my own life. Like, do I want to be here anymore? Because I just had nothing. I just had nothing in my mind to look forward to. That led me to go back to Philadelphia because I'm like, okay, it's not out here in LA, let me go back to Philly. And one thing my father always said to me is, Gail, you can't run from yourself.
Right.
And what a great message. You can't run from yourself. So I did go back to Philly, but I was no happier. I ended up in an abusive relationship. So I went further and further into a hole. And finally, I said, you know what, I got to go talk to somebody. My mother had urged me to go talk to a psychologist and kind of say, hey, Gail, like, let's take a look at your life. What are you doing? And I did. And I remember sitting in her office and I was just like rubbing my hands, because I was so afraid to move. I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't until I said, you know what, there's hobbies out there. I started to get out a little bit. I started to take classes. I started to do things and develop skill sets and build a confidence level. And then when I tell you, you're going then into basic mode. So you're kind of breaking through that survival mode to now you're kind of exploring. You still don't know that you can do more, but you're exploring. You're starting to get out there. I would never, if I did not start to explore my life and what it is I could do, I would never be in the spot I am today. Right. So When you're talking about people that are like, okay, I'm 9 to 5, clocking in at 9 o'clock, what you're really talking about is I have no idea that there's more out there for me than what it is I'm doing right now. Because if you would step out and just look, what else is going on? What else can I develop? What other skill sets do I have? Because you have a lot more than you can possibly imagine.
And so when you talk about, you said consciously aware mode, you have to stand back, and then you talk about going to counselor. I think we've all been there. I mean, when I think my pinnacle point was 25. I looked 25. I said, what have I done with my life? Where am I at? And that was my struggle. And I guess that was my tipping point as well. But when you can't become consciously aware of where you're at, how can you give some advice to people on, how you get to, to move on to the next stage?
You got to get educated. You got to start learning. I have had people in my world that have worked for me, and I give everybody a chance, but like certain people come in without certain skills, like even typing skills. Like, learn it. I'm sorry. Take the time, freaking learn the basic skills of life that can advance you in the smallest way. Learn it. Learn every skill that you can. They have online classes that you can take for so many different things, even like Adobe Photoshop. Like, develop some new skill sets. Take an online course. Open your mind. See, what people don't realize is that when you take a class, any class, it spurs a creative moment, as creative elements in your brain that causes you to come up with other ideas. So you don't want to be in a spot that you're just stuck with yourself. If you're stuck with yourself, you're going to go through that same routine over and over again. Especially if you're stuck, you're going to stay stuck. Get out there, start to develop those skill sets, and also get yourself some mentors along the way.
So why is it so hard for people to change their environment to move along in life?
What I have seen is that we surround ourselves with who we are. So you want to step out of who you are, put yourself into a brand new environment, put yourself into a whole new spiral. Stop staying in the place that you're at, develop new friends, new resources, new outer circles that can take you to a whole new level. It's not where you are right now, it's where you step to that's going to bring you to that next level.
Well, you said one key thing in your book is about you have to define your life. So when you relate to that, what are you're telling people when you say you have to define your life? Because you're going to go through different stages of your life at different points.
Yeah, and defining your life really is, where are you at right now? And can you be honest about it? Can you truthfully say, this is where I am? I mean, I don't know about you, Vince, but I'm super hard on myself. People tell me, stop being so hard on yourself, Gail, stop being. And honestly, I'd rather be hard on myself, because it means I'm always looking for an answer to do or be better, or to find something new, or to step it up on some level. But defining your life really means being honest. Where are you right now? Is this where you want to be? If it's not where you want to be, what outside circle do you have to step into? What other people's worlds do you want to find yourself in? Go do it. I don't care if you go be a server at a restaurant. Go do it. You're going to find new people and new opportunities just by doing that.
Oh, look, hey, I had the 3 jobs back in the day on survival mode. So I definitely understand where you're going. But as you talk about that, there were some key things here: a better attitude, the actions that many people struggle with, and concepts to grow themselves. So I find that going to the gym is one of the things I figured out in my life that I needed to do to get myself in a different direction. What are some of the techniques that you've used over the years to get yourself out of the struggle? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, if you want to really get yourself unstuck, the first thing I would say to do is make a list of the things that you have to do in a day to have a successful day. And Vince, you just mentioned working out as one of those things. And it could be something as basic as, like, for me, I like my coffee and my bran muffin in the morning. I like every night, especially if I'm really cutting back on my eating. The next morning is like, I cannot wait to have my coffee and my bran muffin. And at some point, I'm probably going to go to the gym too. But you will never find a day that I don't have a plan. I've got to be up 5, I have to be up at 6, and I've got work to do. Just because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not sleeping in. So people have to do the same thing. What do you have to do to have a successful day? If you have a very small world and really it's hanging out, then you've got to find yourself in classes, in courses, somehow around somebody new. Maybe it's going to a meetup What's a hobby you like? Go to a meetup, meet some people. Start to separate yourself from the world that you're in right now. That's immediate. You don't wait to do that. Separate yourself from today's world.
So how do you talk to people about changing their circle? So like you look at your circle that you have now, compare it to the circle you had prior to that from 20 and maybe 30 and then now, and then how did you reshape that? Because that's, to me, was my biggest journey, is changing my circle of people who I was around and making myself to be able to excel, because there's people in the military that have been in 30 years and they never achieve their goals because they're the circle they hang around.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in my world, it's been a slow evolving circle. All right. So,
Wow.
it's been
Wow.
a slow evolving circle for me. And I tell you that because I understand, the world of movement and motion and what you have to do. And a lot of the work that I have achieved has been my own doing in my own little circle with little reach outs. I might find events in my world somewhere. And it's only now that I'm starting to develop a solid outside circle. But that's been because of podcasts that I have been on. It's been because of classes that I got
All
involved in.
right.
It's been because I cold call and pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Mr. Vice President, are you looking for a trainer that, can help with the sales process?" Meaning I'm doing the work too. I'm not just telling other people to step in and do the work. I'm doing it too. And soon as you step outside of your world is where you will uncover things you never thought were possible. I mean, I ended up doing America's TV Job Network, which I think we talked about in your last episode, but that was
Right.
sat on the doorstep for 3 months until they hired me. But I came across that opportunity because I was cold calling. I was cold calling for a training opportunity, and I happened to find they were doing a TV show, and I said, I can't let this go. But that is where, when we talk about the systematic attitude development technique and unstoppable, that's where it came into play, because literally that executive producer sat me down after 3 months and said, "Gail, we don't want you." He said it in a nice way, but he said, "We're having auditions next week. I'm sorry, it's not going to work out. We need somebody with experience." Like, that's the total rejection. That's the total. I was knocked out at that point. "You're done, Gail. We don't want you," basically.
Wow.
And I said, "I'll see you at the auditions." So systematic attitude development technique is about getting back into the logic. You finish it. You finish what you start. You finish what you start. Don't go into any game without finishing it at full force.
And you talk in your book about how you went through that process and the different people that have come in and out of your life that had those impacts on you. Who are you kind of in touch with now to this day? Is your dad still alive, or who still kind of influences you as you grow yourself as an entrepreneur?
Well, my dad is no longer with me.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He's gone now for about 3 years. I mean, his legacy continues, he's like all about
Right.
sales in my world and all of that. But I do have executives, Tom Rogers, who's an executive at alarm.com. I have Brian Post, who's a world-renowned clinician. I have certain people, Glenn Pushis, who's with Steel Dynamics, that I can turn to, that I can seek out advice. I have a few other individuals right now that I'm working with a mastermind on, but it's been an evolutionary process. It hasn't been something that's just been overnight.
Hey, so have you been doing any of those like keynote major forums things, like with different keynote speakers or podcast influencers on, trying to help the next generation become successful?
I have not been on their platforms yet. I'm doing some private organizations, but not anything public right now.
Well, you're going to be, because as soon as I get the symposium for Embrace the Power, you're going to be one of the speakers.
Well, I got to tell you, like, I love being on a podcast with you, Vince. You know how to keep the conversation. You keep it upbeat. You keep the conversation going. You ask great questions. So it would be an honor. It'd be an
Oh,
honor.
yeah. Hey, we got veterans. We're going to try to have veterans there, young entrepreneurs, college kids. We're working on the funding now, and I'm still putting the roster together for bringing some people in, for take care of the hotel and their travel while they get there, and then they can sell their books or whatever. But the key thing about it is bringing quality people in who aren't there to gouge the people out there trying to make it. I thought about this. I wish there had been a Vince Bugs or a Gail Kasper when I was coming up to get in my ear back in the 1980s. I really do, because I think of where I would be right now if I'd had some, some guidance. And do you ever reflect on that yourself?
Oh my God. Sometimes I say to myself, did someone come into my life and I missed it? I was too young and stupid to get it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you ever say that to yourself? Like, wait a minute, did I miss them? Were they there? Of course it would have been it- because I've seen it happen with people, right time, right place, right encouragement, right movement. Might life have been a little bit easier if that happened? Yeah, maybe. But
Yeah.
by the same respect, I know that I have a resilience. I think my biggest lesson to me was one time I was sitting at a bar and I was just having something to eat, and there's somebody that sat down next to me and he was talking to me. And he said, Gail, where did you get your level of confidence? Like he said, I have never met anyone with your level of confidence before. And to me,
Wow, that's profound.
that was one of the biggest compliments I think I ever got in my life, because it's kind of, I'm so used to having to do things on my own, having to fix it on my own, having to keep going on my
Yes.
own, that you just develop that along the way. And in turn, it certainly helps a lot of other people, because I'll tell you something, nobody around me is ever going to get beat up on the wrong way unless there's a good reason for it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I know
nobody's
what you
gonna get
mean.
picked on. No, nobody's gonna get picked on, because I'm gonna be the first one to speak up, and I'm gonna be the first one to speak up if somebody isn't doing the right thing, and they need to be.
All right, so you got some new projects coming out. So hit us up on some of the new projects you got coming up, because I know you got Men Almighty, and kind of tell us about Men Almighty real quick, and then talk about any new projects that you got coming up, because you got a podcast coming up soon that you're putting together too, because you have it on your
Yeah,
link
I
tree. So
know.
I'm being nosy. I'm being nosy.
I'm glad you're being nosy, because I was just thinking about the other day and I'm like, I got to set a start date on that. But I'm going to anticipate getting my start date probably January for that. I'm gathering some really strong male minds, and I got to talk to you in that process, of course, add you into that loop. I'm gathering some people that I just want to have, so that it just starts and it can consistently be out there. And you know what? I don't know that it's going to be an every week thing. It might be like an every other week podcast, but it's really going to inspire. The goal is that it inspires others to achieve more in their life and to learn from some of the most powerful male minds that exist. So, and
Yeah.
what they did to achieve. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. Men Almighty is still going. It is an educational platform right now. So it's kind of switched gears a little bit. And we still have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, menalmighty.com/newsletter. So please be a part of that. It is free. There is no charge for it. And what's great about the newsletter is that we offer not only our own tips, but we also include links from some other powerful resources out there so that people can learn full circle, not just from me, but from other places on various topics. And I'm continuing my speaking. I've got my portfolio of clients that I'm continuing to build on. I've got some great opportunities that are coming up through the beginning of 2025. So that's exciting for me. And I'm would love to at some point have my own public seminar or mastermind, that people can come and be a part of. But that's a little bit further on the horizon.
Yeah, because it all takes a financial base, and then getting the right venue, and then the advertising. But Gail, you're doing great. I mean, after I read Unstoppable, and you had this 6 easy ways to kind of look at yourself. Everybody does the self-reflecting. So definitely, when I get my book finished, I'll send it out so you can read it
Please,
and get some
signed,
self-reflect.
signed.
Yeah, I'm all about that signed book thing. I'm all about that,
Yeah.
because you never know. I always tell people you never know. So what advice do you give, would you give everybody, since, we last talked, you've been doing a lot of different projects, you've been traveling, you've been speaking a lot more. So kind of give me something that's kind of impacted you since we've last talked, which has been about 7 months to 8 months.
Yeah, and I go through my tough times just like everyone else does. And it's not necessarily business. It could be a personal situation, health situation, whatever, where you have to kind of propel and move forward. I would say, please make sure in your life, number one, that you have something that you enjoy outside of your work that's really true to your heart. Recently I was in New England Fashion Week. I was modeling, and I wanted to get back on the stage. It had been a while. So just the idea that I was back involved with that, and of course had to be the star of the show. I can't not, be in the wings. I got to make sure that I'm modeling more outfits than anyone else. It's always a competition, but
Hey, love it, love it.
yeah, but really just to get back to everyone else, just find something that you truly love to do outside of work. Certainly it can include your family, but if it gives you some personal time and space to be thinking, to clear your head, to think about what's possible, to develop a new skill, find it. I don't care if it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes every couple of days, if it's once a week, every other week, but you have got to have that. Secondly, with regard to your job, what are you doing to get better? Expand that circle. What are you learning that's new? I don't care if it's something small. Take a step somewhere. Maybe it's somebody in a different department that you haven't connected with and you learn something more about their position and what they do or how they work. What's going to expand your mind in a different way? And then thirdly, I would say, please, health-wise, be getting to the gym. I can't tell you the number of times, or a walk, or a run. Vince, I don't run unless I'm being chased, but that's a fact. But where is it that you can inspire creative mode? Because if you start doing these other things, the hobby, getting educated in some way, all of a sudden you're going to be at the gym and you're going to start to come up with ideas. You're going to come up with something new that you want to do, that you want to try, that you've been thinking about for a while. Maybe it's write a book, maybe it's write a play, maybe it's write a movie. Who knows what it is? Do it, but take the time first to get to the gym so that you can clear your head and really take care of you. Critical. And to me, it's not about weight. It's about health. It's about health. It's about health.
Yeah, you hit all the key points that matter to people's life, because it is about health and not weight. And if people focus on lifting weights and building muscle, hey, everything else falls in place. All right, so Gail, one last thing.
Wait, can I tell you something funny that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. We got time. Go.
All right, so I'm real big. I like to go to the gym. I stretch. I do what I'm supposed to do. I was, in my space, dancing around on my own like I was J-Lo. Threw my arm out and I actually hurt my right arm. Here, I wasn't even in the gym and I was just dancing around and I hurt my arm.
That means we're getting old. No, I'm just joking. That's just okay. Things ache that aren't supposed to ache, and you go, "What is going on?"
It's like I didn't stretch the one time. Like I'm thinking, like I said, I thought I was J-Lo in my place, like dancing around. It didn't work. It didn't work.
Well, so let's ask this: in the 21st century, right now, what are some of the critical things in the mindset that people should, really work on going forward?
Oh my God. Number one, first and foremost, is communication skills. Drop the phone, get out in front of people, start to talk to them, learn to sell, learn to be on your feet. Like all the things that I teach people on. I mean, obviously I believe in them, but I believe in them because the most powerful life changers in this world, the people that are going to make the greatest change in this world, are the ones that can communicate. Get out from behind that phone. And the younger you are and the more you're on that phone, the more it's going to hold you back from becoming everything you can be. You want to be able to manage conflict effectively. You want to be able to talk to anybody about anything. You want to be able to be confident in who you are. And that doesn't happen behind the phone. So get out from behind the phone. That would be number one on my list.
Oh, that was spot on. I think that social media is not the issue. I always tell people it's more the phone than the social media, because anything is controllable, right? If you take it in moderation. Hey guys, I wanted to tell you, subscribe. We had Gail Kasper on. Get her book, Unstoppable. It's a great book. It will tell you about finding your inner fire, getting after it, and setting conditions to improve your life. Gail, it has been an honor having you on my show again and again, because I hope we do a lot, collaborate on a lot more things going forward. And if you haven't checked out Men Almighty, check it out. Check Gail out on Instagram. Gail, what's your Instagram?
Gail Kasper with a K.
There we go. Yeah, like not the ghost, guys, but yeah, K with a K on Instagram. And I will tell you this, she is worth the consulting. Get in contact with her. And this is men and women, but definitely young men. If you are trying to find yourself, hey, sit down, talk to Gail, get some advice, and move forward with your life, because we all can do a little bit better in life as long as we got some positivity. And with that being said, and that's just how we